From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, meteorologist Scott Mundt. It's Tuesday, January 6th, and this is our latest edition of Weather or Not. And coming up on today's show, we'll talk about our fog. We had fog again this morning, parts of eastern KELOLAND. Received an email about fog and that 90-day fog theory. We'll get to that coming up as one of our first segments. And we'll take a look at some of those weather stats that I talked about that I would look into yesterday. So I did that, and we'll take a look at some of those weather stats about how warm we've been dating back since November 1st. And speaking of warm, our warm pattern will be joined by meteorologist Brian Karstens by then. And we'll see when we are expected to turn colder. A couple of things got to my attention here as I was looking at computer data this morning as I woke up earlier this morning. So let's go ahead and jump into today's forecast. As you can see here on Futurecast, it's trying to generate a couple of isolated maybe showers in southeastern KELOLAND. We'll see if these do hold true. This is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so we may have some thicker clouds that decide to roll through, and with that, a stray shower. It's enough to, I would say, just to mention it in the forecast. And then as we get into tomorrow, this is at 3 o'clock, we'll probably start with sunshine, and temperatures will warm. Tomorrow still looking to be the warmest day out of the work week. We are forecasting 50 for a high in Sioux Falls, much like what we hit on Sunday. We hit 50 on Sunday in Sioux Falls. Later in the afternoon, western South Dakota, there might be a light wintry mix that shows up across western KELOLAND. Looking at snow for the higher elevations of the hills. Looks like maybe a couple of rain showers in and around Rapid City. And then as we get into Thursday, the clouds may be a little thicker, will be a little cooler, more of a northerly wind can be expected Thursday to help bring in these cooler temperatures. And as we do take a look at our wind gusts over the next several days, I don't stop it till Thursday because that's the day where, we may get a couple of these gusts over 20 in eastern, southeastern KELOLAND. It's still not obnoxious. We could deal with that. That's a typical day, I would think, maybe even a little stronger. Friday afternoon, this is when we will start to see a stronger push of colder air to eventually come in to where we can cool Friday, Saturday, and then rebound as we do get into Sunday and Monday with some warmer temperatures. But Friday afternoon, we could have some of those wind gusts near 30 across western South Dakota, and then we'll probably see those wind gusts over 30 in eastern KELOLAND on Saturday. That will help bring in some of the coldest air for the entire week. And when you look at Sunday through Saturday, Saturday may end up being the coldest for some of us in eastern KELOLAND. And we'll see if we get a couple of scattered snow showers during that time too. For today, we are looking at temperatures in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. 50s in south central to western South Dakota. Tonight, temperatures fall to the 20s to near 30 degrees. We'll see if we get any fog to develop tonight. And for tomorrow, it will be a warm day, highs in the 50s. I would say for the southern half of the area, we may hit 50. The northern half will keep those temperatures in the 40s. Coming up in the next segment here, we will talk about the fog, the 90-day fog theory. That's coming up. And also talk about our warm days or cold days that we've had since November 1st. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. It's time to talk about 90-day fog as well as an email that I received from yesterday. And I'll talk about some of these weather stats going back since the 1st of November. But here's a look at that email. It says, Scott, I was watching your weather show about 3 months ago, and you made an interesting comment. It was foggy or rainy. I can't remember which one. You said, when this happens, an old wives' tale means precipitation 3 months from that date. I counted 90 days from then, and that would be the 13th. And interesting enough, snow is in the forecast for the 10th. I like your forecast. Sincerely, Nancy. Well, thank you for that email, Nancy. And you're right. Yes, we do have snow that's in the forecast Friday and the Saturday. And even though it doesn't necessarily match up exactly 90 days, but it's fairly close. I guess this one will be off by 3 if it holds true. And, of course, it doesn't always hold true, but when it does, when it does, people remember, yeah, we did have fog back then. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch. And something else we can watch is I looked at some of the stats, and I just looked at when we had thick fog for Sioux Falls and when that was recorded. And thick fog being less than a quarter of a mile visibility. So you see these dates, 90 days from then. We had one before Halloween on the 30th of October, and then the 20th of November and the 6th of December. And you see how those dates do go out to January 28th, February 18th, and then March 6th. And, even members of my family said, because we've had so much fog lately, December going into January now, that they even made the comment, well, looks like March might be a little busy for you. So we'll see if this holds true. It's always interesting to follow something like this. And a lot of people do swear by it, mark it down on their calendars. All right, let's see. This is a new graphic I made. Water cooler talk. Sometimes I come up with these stats and people may be wondering, well, where does he come up with this stuff? I mean, it's kind of off the wall. This is something I thought about yesterday, about how warm it's been, just comparing these days to our average highs and our average lows going back to November 1st. And this is for Sioux Falls. High temperatures above average. You can see how many days for that month, 18 days in November and December, 3 out of the 5 so far in January. Of course, I'm not counting today, but I could because we had lows in the 30s this morning, or near 30. So 59% dating back to November 1st, we've had high temperatures being above average. And same with the lows, but it's not the exact same day because you do see how those days do change. When you look at November, we've had 22 out of the 30 where the low temperatures have been above average, but it still came out to 59%, same as the number we have for temperatures being above average. Something else that I looked at, with lows warmer than the average highs, that week of Christmas, going Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the day after, all the way through the 27th, you can see our low temperature in Sioux Falls around 30 degrees. Well, the climate low, I shouldn't say high, it should say the climate, that's right, climate high. I'm fighting a cold, I don't know if you could tell. The climate high for that date is the 29th, or the 29 degrees. And you can see how those numbers do correlate with that as well, saying that those temperatures for the lows were above our climate high for the day. So we've had some, I would say, some warmer, mild days. Now let's check something else. Let's look at the highs colder than the average lows. You can see how it's been confusing me too. That's why they're laughing at the water cooler. For December 13th, our high temperature, 8. The climate average low, 14. November 9th, the high temperature, 9 degrees. And the climate low temperature down to 27. So there are a lot of numbers at you, but, these are, and I would, for myself, think, interesting stats. And I just want to share that with you guys too, just to show you, how warm has it been or how cold has it been. But a lot of these days have ended up above average. Coming up in the next weather segment, we'll talk about this warm pattern. How long does it last? And we'll be joined by meteorologist Brian Karstens. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. I'm joined by meteorologist Brian Karstens now. And Brian, this warm weather pattern seems it wants to continue this week, maybe a little cooler by the weekend, Friday, Saturday, trying to bring in some snow chances by then too.
Yeah, some snow possibilities, and we've been kind of talking about that as a system that routes up on this southwestern trough coming in, which, you think about the season so far, we really haven't had a lot of that. But yes, indeed, the troughing digging here around Baja, California, and we'll kind of watch to see how that all comes together here in the forecast. But as of right now, it looks like that will be the story here as we move into the upcoming end of the week. Now, let me play this out here so we'll kind of watch how this moves. And basically, Scott, looking at maybe two systems here. Probably
Okay.
a lead wave will come out into Kansas and Oklahoma as we get into Thursday. You can see evidence of that right there. And then that would be a rainmaker to our south. It's the second leg that comes out of the southwest that looks a little more interesting. Certainly some storm tracks. We can debate about that a little bit. I noticed the newest run of the European model as of the airtime of this program is still showing the potential here for this system to move forward into at least eastern Nebraska. So keep that in mind. It's been a dry pattern. That's the wrong graphic I didn't want to show. But
That's okay.
you know what? It's been dry from the fall, dry for the winter for some of us, western South Dakota. Obviously, the pattern, the warm-up, the warming weather we've had has definitely been. We've talked many times about the fire weather concerns across Nebraska and South Dakota. So it'd be nice to pick up some moisture. I think some of us might debate whether or not you want that to be rain or snow. But
Right.
even routing some rain back into the plains, at least it shakes things up a little bit. We don't count on January, though, being a big month for precipitation usually, do we?
No, we don't. It's usually our driest month across much of the area, but we may see some snows as we do get into this weekend. This could be either Friday or Saturday that we'll have to watch. I still think a lot of this is trying to set up across northwestern Iowa, though there is that secondary system that will come in from the north for the first half of the weekend, and that can bring in maybe another round of some snow showers. Now, this particular run really trying to hit western South Dakota with some snows, accumulating snows across western KELOLAND. And then as we do take a look at the American model, it more or less does the same thing, trying to bring in accumulating snow into northwestern Iowa. But with that secondary system coming down from the north, it also picks up on Saturday's snow showers into northeastern South Dakota. So we do have a couple of, I call them weak systems for KELOLAND. I don't think we'll see the majority of the snow in or around the area. But there are a couple of things that are worth watching as we do go forward. But all in all, I think these temperatures, Brian, they'll probably just remain above average, even when we cool enough to bring in a snow chance.
Yeah, we don't have a lock-in on any real cold air for now. We've been talking about the second half of the month and
Yes,
how
we have.
things are still stacking up for some cold, but we're in that position right now where we can just, again, see the pieces starting to move there, but it's at least a week, if not longer. But you know what? We can have that discussion, though, can't we?
Yeah, we can. And we'll talk more about that coming up in the next weather segment. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. Colder temperatures. When will that happen, Brian? I think we've been kind of teasing that with saying the second half of the month may end up being a little cooler, colder than what's expected for the first half of the month. But we'll have to wait and see. It's interesting to see that that's where the data right now is trying to go.
Yeah, it is. And, you look at the forecast right now, and, we've had a lot of things suggesting the third week of January starts to shake things up a little bit here. So let's take a look at where we start first. I guess that's, the talking point here. And there's all that Pacific air right out the gate. There goes across, through the end of this week. Now, we get into the weekend. Things are going to pull back. I would caution you that this doesn't show the entire effect of that, but I think that Sunday, Saturday and Sunday both are colder for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of turn the corner into Monday and Tuesday, and here we go again. We've got more mild weather coming in from the northwest, and that's how this thing lands through, middle of next week. It's after that
Yes.
Pick a date, 17th through the 20th of January, kind of around in there. There's still a lot of things. We just see these pieces of data shooting out at us. The teleconnections. So it's not just random thoughts. We put together, okay, does this make sense? Is there blocking in the appropriate areas of the Arctic? For example, if you're going to start forecasting cold intrusions into the lower 48, you're going to look for Greenland blocking. You're also going to be looking for an Alaskan connection sometimes with, once things get dislodged from Alaska, the cold will typically try to route south. And I think that there's merit to that. So interested to see how that all plays out.
Right. But before then, as you mentioned, these temperatures will be warm. Now, something that I noticed as I was going through information early this morning, I look at a lot of the data at home, and then I would take notes, come in later in the morning and join you on KELOLAND this morning. But this is going back to what I saw earlier this morning. I like to run through, I think I go through at least 10 different forecast models just looking at some of these temperatures. So here's the third model that I look at. This is the deterministic from the European. And it's showing a lot of these days will be warm. You do see a lot of these 40s throughout that forecast. And it takes us from the 6th today all the way through the 20th of January. And we do have that hit of some colder air coming in on the 17th and 18th, according to that model. Now, the GFS, the American model, will take it from the same run, too, as I do change the time. Now, we have that 50 tomorrow. That's in our forecast. The American agrees with that. And it tries to shoot us again on Monday up to 50. And we've been mentioning on KELOLAND this morning that we have warm temperatures returning early next week. And then it starts to cool us with these hits, we'll say, of cold air. But they don't last. 2 days here, 3 days here. If you want to count that 27, you sure can. But these numbers that are in the low to middle 30s, those numbers are above average. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Canadian. What is this one doing? Well, you can see it has this one dip here for the first half of the weekend, that high of 28. That comes in on Saturday. And then after that, early next week, it has temperatures in the 40s and 50s. And Brian, this goes with that thinking of that first half of the month. We're still looking at temperatures being above average because this takes us from today all the way through the 15th, so halfway through January. Now it gets a little more interesting, Brian, as you bring in the ensemble forecast, and I just need to change the time frame, the 0Z data on this. To me, that looks like a steady decline there when you're looking at those numbers toward the tail end, starting to fall in the 20s on the 17th of January, and we just keep that trend going until the 20th of January. And that's the numbers coming off of the European run from the 0Z.
Yep, and that is the ensemble, too, by the way. So that's a weighted average. And when the weighted average starts to go below climatology, too, see, that tells you that, and what's going to happen in there in reality, it's going to be one air mass is going to win or another. It's not going to be a blend. That's not going to happen. The model, of course, has to take in all of it because it sees some of the runs or some of the pieces of data still being, it's still mild. And so you'll throw that in. And then it sees the bitter cold, and then that weighs things down. So it kind of meets in the middle, which if that's the middle, then, we definitely have something going on there. And I think that'll be interesting to watch. And I see now you got the GFS, which is even colder.
Right. So when I brought both of these up earlier this morning, I'm thinking, okay, they're both trying to latch on to some colder air coming in during the second half of January. Just how long does that last, again, remains to be the question. And as you mentioned, which air mass is going to win out with this as we get into the second half of the month. And we'll see if these trends do hold true. Now, there's the Canadian. The Canadian likes us to be cold as well. You see that temperature falling to 17 for a high on the 19th. So that is below average. Anytime you get in the mid-20s, 27 is our climate average high in Sioux Falls. So anytime you get in the mid-20s and below, you're looking at afternoon highs that will be below average. And those numbers are showing up when we get into the second half of the month. But, Brian, something we haven't talked about, snow. What's going on with our precipitation during that time? Is the cold air going to win out and maybe push these chances of snow to our south or precipitation to our south? That could be a big question as we go into the second half of the month.
Yeah, definitely is a story there. And, well, let's keep watching it for now with the assumption of a northwest flow. Nothing's really standing out yet for us, but, just like December, turned out to be a little active, didn't it, the first half of the month? So you can get systems to come in from that direction, and certainly you'll see some of the data, just spikes a little bit. It's interesting to see the Saturday run here of that little chance of snow we have. Most of the averages are under an inch, but I see a few little lines there, Scott, that kind of climb up into that 3 or 4 inch range. Interesting to watch that.
Yeah, we'll continue to follow it. We're just looking at a couple of the snow plumes here. Now, that only takes us through, the 12th of January. So you will have a couple of models here and there that do want to throw in maybe a rogue, snow chance at least. And you see, there's only maybe a handful that try to bring those numbers over 2 inches.
Right, and that's for this weekend.
That's
the first system.
Yeah, and we're not overly excited about really seeing our snow chances here over the next, I would say, week to week and a half. Sure, we have it in the forecast, 20 to 30%, but it's not a blockbuster storm by any means. Anything we'll get should stay fairly light.
Yep, and track 2 to the south is definitely stronger through Omaha for the weekend. And if we don't have any snow on the ground, Scott, too, that also makes a difference. You get some cold infused into the pattern, and say that all comes to pass, well, the cold tends to modify a little bit. It's January. It can get cold, don't get me wrong, but it is one of the factors that we watch as we keep a close eye on the big picture. I see now you've got the ensemble or the AI version, don't you?
Yep, the AI version here. And this is just going over the 24-hour snowfall forecast. Look what happened here. As we get into this weekend, we've been predicting, snow showers in our forecast, but over the last 2 model runs, it just completely wipes it out, and it wants to put it back here, looking at the 19th and 20th of January. That's when all the model runs that we just showed you, trying to bring in that colder air. So
I think that's really interesting. You just showed that, too, how it just drops that off at the end like that. That's really compelling on the AI side of things. So if you see more of the data go in that direction, you'll know the AI won out.
Yep, and we'll continue to follow it. And, of course, you could always follow it along with us as you watch Weather or Not. Have yourself a great day.